How did you get the role of Chainsaw in Summer School? What's that story?
My agent sent me an audition to go read for a movie called Summer School at Paramount Studios. So I went and I read with Carl Reiner was in the room. Carl Reiner goes, "Hey, try this," and he gave me this horrible direction, like really surprisingly bad. And I thought, that's awful. And normally I would have said, "Oh, okay," and not done it. But I thought, well, this is Carl Reiner, so I guess he's Carl Reiner, so I'll try it. Right. It was awful. And Carl Reiner went, yeah, that was awful. Okay, get out of here. And so got the gig. A couple weeks into shooting, Carl Reiner was sitting waiting for whatever. And remember when I gave you that horrible direction at the audition? They were like, oh, yeah, I don't know. It was horrible. He goes, no, it was horrible. It was bad. Like, yeah, I remember that. He goes, I did that to see if you'd listen to me because I could tell you're a cocky motherfucker.
From the heart of Hollywood, it's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show with Patrick Labyorteaux.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux, he's the one you gotta know.
Tonight's episode, Dean Cameron.
Patrick Labyorteaux Show, he's the one you gotta know.
Previously on Dean Cameron. Dean Cameron was born in Morrison, Illinois on Christmas Day, just like Jesus. He later lived in Norman, Oklahoma and Santa Barbara, California, just like Oprah. If you've ever watched cable TV in the 90s, you know Dean from his classic films Summer School, Bad Dreams, Men at Work, Rockula, Miracle Beach, and the psychological thriller Ski School.
Ski School. It's not about learning how to ski.
If it's not about learning how to ski, then what is it about? After conquering the silver screen, Dean later appeared in a stupid amount of TV shows like Facts of Life, Alf, Party of Five, ER, Mad About You, Will and Grace, Psych, Glee, NCIS, Goliath, Quantum Leap, and the underrated See Dad Run. Not only a talent in front of the camera, Dean also is an accomplished writer, crafting the screenplay for the underrated masterpiece Hollywood Palms with yours truly, and theater sensation The Nigerian Spam Scam. Dean is also a force in music, writing songs and directing videos for Steel Panther. He also created, produced, wrote, and performed all the songs for the band Low Speed Chase, whose album Expect Delays has taken the world by storm. Well, maybe not by storm. It's out. You can listen to it. A legend forever known as Chainsaw and one of my best friends, Dean Cameron.
The person I admire most in the world is actor, character creator, and musician Dean Cameron. His wonderfully gruesome slime bladders and slobber tubes in Summer School won him absolutely nothing. That is why I admire actor, character creator, and musician Dean Cameron very, 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 very much. 100 words on the nose. You can count it if you want.
Nice.
There was so much in that script in Summer School that we shot, that we did, that like there was a whole. The only thing I remember, to be honest, but I know you remember more, was the dance number. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. That Mark Harmon was singing and dancing.
Yeah, and you can see in one of the scenes the lyrics on the chalkboard in the background.
Act 1, Beginnings.
Why are you an actor? What made you do this thing? Why did you start? What made you want to be an actor?
Well, when I was. That's why.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. My parents, when we lived in Santa Barbara, were doing a play called The Trojan Women. And I was 6, and I was out it was rehearsing at this church. And my dad came out and he goes, "Hey, you want to be in a play?" And I was like, "Yeah." I go, "Sure." And he goes, "Oh, you get killed and you just have to lie in this shield. You think you can be still for 30 minutes? Like,
right.
Yeah. So, because in the play, they throw me off a cliff and sacrifice me. And so I got the best reviews of everybody.
as body?
Well, I had some lines, beginning in the first act. And then, so I thought, oh, this is cool. And then my parents got divorced. My mom and I moved all around, ended up in Oklahoma. And I would spend all my summers and Christmases in Santa Barbara. and they had this great youth theater program there in the summers, two plays, two musicals. And I started doing musicals like at 11. I did this production of Our Town with John Ritter before he'd won an Emmy for the Waltons, playing the priest. Yeah. And so in that show is Eric Stoltz and Anthony Edwards and this kid Mike Sherritt, and then we just started every summer. I'd do plays with them, and then about the time they got into junior high, they were coming into LA to do commercials and guest star stuff on TV. And I thought, well, if they can do that, I can do that. My dad had tried to be an actor for a year in 1970. He taught English and drama at Santa Barbara High School. Yeah, and then he took a year off, came to LA, tried to be an actor, did not go well. And so he told me, it's impossible. It'll never happen. So I thought that sounds like a challenge to me that I'm willing to take up. And on the other side of that, my mom said, if you don't go, you'll always wonder what would have happened. So you should do it. You should try it. And so after I graduated from high school, I was 17. I came out here and I was roommates with Eric Stoltz and Anthony Edwards and this other guy, Scott Durnovich, who we all were buddies. And I don't know you may not know this. So you remember the Jacobys, obviously?
Yeah.
So D. Jacoby had this house. I was going to get out here. We were all going to live in this house that D. Jacoby was going to rent to us. And that never happened. So we ended up living in a 1-bedroom apartment across the street from USC where Eric and Tony were going to school. And our friendship magically survived those 3 months. And during that time, my car got stolen with everything I owned.
Exposition is not a very safe area.
No.
So when you're here, when you got down here, you had a really, at least if I remember right, you had a really great job. Where did you work? Where was like one of your first jobs here?
My first job, I was a Christmas extra in the hardware section at the Broadway on Hollywood and Vine. That was in 1980. Yeah. And then I worked at Shakey's Pizza in Santa Monica as a cook. And then I got a job at the Chinese Theater. I was an usher, and then I became head usher at the Chinese Theater for 2 years.
What's the distinction? What kind of powers do you get?
Well, head usher, instead of making $3.50 an hour, I was making $3.65 an hour. So I was taking home, a couple $100 a week. That was cool.
That's pretty sweet.
When I started, you'll like this story. When I started, Reds was showing, Warren Beatty commie movie.
Right. That's like 4 hours long.
Yeah. And so I was at the door talking to this old usher who'd been there forever, who they ended up firing because he was, anyway. And I see Fred Astaire walk up to the box office.
No way.
And I wow, that's Fred Astaire. And then I see Fred Astaire walk away from the box office. Like, wow, that was Fred Astaire. I wonder what movie he went to see. And so the girls who worked in the box office were Filipino generally. And so on break, I was like, so that guy, Fred Astaire, she goes, oh yeah, he said he was in movies but he didn't have his SAG card because it used to be able to go see movies for free with his SAG card.
God.
He goes, yeah, so we didn't let him in. I'm like, oh my God, that's Fred Astaire. And I think he has handprints.
He's signed in the courtyard.
But he just sort of like, I guess, yeah, that's Showbiz. And that was I get it now. Like, yeah.
What are you feeling at this point? I mean, when you come out here, what's the kind of a specific goal? I know it's to get work and to be an actor, but like, who did you want to see yourself as, or what was like the perfect answer to your question that you were coming out here for?
I wanted to be the next Dustin Hoffman. That was and be a great character actor. And I wanted to be a great American character actor. It really happened, but that was my sort of template. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because I ended up, Eric and I continued to be roommates. I moved to this other place anyway. And we ended up at this house, renting this house in Van Nuys, and another roommate was Ali Sheedy. And I was working at the Chinese Theater, and she did Bad Boys and War Games. And Eric did Fast Times, and they were working, and everybody I knew was working, and I was working in the Chinese theater. And Kathleen Wilhoit was another Santa Barbara person who was in her. She was working.
Oh, wow.
And we all had the same management. And I remember, and she had gotten a job that I really wanted. But she had turned down the TV show Fame.
Okay.
And I really wanted to be on the TV show Fame, and I couldn't, then they had nothing to do with me. And I remember driving home from the Chinese theater thinking, well, I can either get bitter and pissed off that I'm not working, but my friends are, or I can go, it's this close. I'm this close. And it just kept going. If they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. And so instead of letting it hurt me and feel that pain, it was like, it's a possibility. This is still viable. And I'm still, and because I had the same managers and agents. So
right.
They were believing in me. I just wasn't booking the gigs I wanted, which is always the case. But yeah, so it was a real mental shift.
So that's a big deal too, because you're in this group of people that, and a little bit of perspective for the people that don't know, back in the day, because I'm like this, like I said, I was born and raised in this business. I was a child actor. And then all you youngsters, all you young upstarts come in here, like the Marlon Brandos, and you start going up to the Loft and Peggy Fury and all this, Sean Penn was there, and like all these methody type of people who talked about acting. Meanwhile, I'm in 16 magazine, and it's like I've been hitting my mark since I'm 4, but I don't know any of the theory. I don't know any of the stuff. And so there's like always this rough, I don't know, kind of friction between those two types of schools of acting to me. And you, when we started working together later, always fascinated me because you were in this group of people that at the time, like you're saying, 84 was the place to be. It was like you were studying with, Stanislavski in New York, or, it was like Peggy Fury in the Loft was like the big, what was it?
Yeah, it was like the Actors Studio of
the Actors Studio. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Stella Adler, however, but it was like the big deal. So how did that come about, and what are your thoughts on that from the inside?
I was not very good. I was not a very good actor, and I had a lot of desire. But so Eric had heard about this place, the Loft, from Sean Penn, who he did Fast Times with, and so Eric said, you should come to this. I went and I talked to him, and they let me in. And I gave off the appearance of being a good actor, but I really wasn't. I could talk the talk. So I got in the cool class pretty immediately. Here's the thing about the Loft. So it was a 4-day-a-week thing. It was 2 hours a day. 2 days you'd do scene work, and 2 days you'd do sensory work and improvisation. And what was great about it was there were 8-week sessions, and everybody would do the same author for all 8 weeks, or same playwright. So everybody would be doing scenes from Sam Shepard or Ibsen or Panther, and you could see the mistakes that everyone else was making, and learn. And also you're reading these authors. You're reading all of Shaw, you're reading all of Panther, and you're getting really this education about theater and about writing. And that was great. It was, I think, though, but the 2 days of sensory stuff was fantastic because you would do improvisation, and not like Groundlings improv. You just do. Right. Sometimes you just set up a thing and do it, and it would be funny, or it would be sad and tragic, or it would just suck.
Character work. You're just creating characters that are true to themselves. Yeah.
And sometimes you do improvisations with the character that you're working on from one of the scenes. So that was really cool. But I think the Loft sort of screwed me up for quite a while because I was talking to Horvitz about this, Richard Horvitz, and I felt like I had too much stuff and trying to apply it to this. I was trying to make like gourmet meals out of McDonald's ingredients,
Right.
which is, and that's just because of this type of work I was getting. It's not, there was, I mean, the writing in the 80s was not great. There was some great stuff, but I was not a part of that. But so I was a little like working too hard on stuff. And now all I try to do is not do anything when I'm auditioning or when I'm working. Just let it all go. Because I feel like I've been around long enough and I have enough time in front of the camera and enough life experience now that just really showing up and being on camera and just listening and talking, because that's really all you need to do as an actor is just listen.
I think it's a great way to say it. I say in the school, I explain to people that all acting is that you have a thought back here that comes out the front of your face.
Yeah.
So if you understand your character, if you understand where you are in your place and time, you don't have to do anything. Everything will be here. You just have to be. That's why they're always talking about being present and all that thing. But again, it's really interesting. I mean, it's fun to talk to you about the acting part because as a young actor, you're soaking this all in like a sponge, and you are wanting to unlock the secrets of acting like no one has ever done before. Going backwards here with one question for you. So at some point, obviously, Eric and Tony. They both end up in Fast Times, and great. They're in Fast Times, but they're basically just Sean's buds, and they're in the van. Weren't you just like fucking seething, going, can't there just be one more guy in the van? All the other people in the van. Can't I just be in the van?
Well, I crashed Eric's Fast Times audition and read for Damone. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I drove because back in the day, like you drive your friend, like you didn't get the audition, but you drive your friend to the audition and you sort of sit there and you go, hey. And so
I got a headshot.
Yeah, and so Eric went in and Amy Heckerling came out. She saw me and she goes, are you an actor? I go, yeah. She goes, are you next? I go, oh no, I just drove him. She goes, are you an actor? Yeah. And she goes, you want to read for my movie? Yeah, well, I'll do that. Yeah. So I read for Damone. I'm waiting to hear. It went really well. It went really well. But it sort of sucked. I mean, it's funny. My fun stories are Eric. We were roommates, and Jeff would call the house. And
okay, just a guy named Jeff.
Yeah, like, hey, is Eric there? I'm like, yeah. Who's this? He goes, Jeff. I'm like, okay, cool. And so I go, Eric, it's Jeff. I go, who's Jeff? He goes, oh, it's Sean. It's this guy, Sean Penn. He's an actor. He just insists on being called his character name. What's up, Jeff? And so that was cool. And then I was at the Van Nuys High School when they did the coming out of the van scene with the smoke.
Oh, cool. Yeah, where they're all smoking out.
Because I was trying to get in the movie. So.
Do you have any parts that you were auditioning for before then that you're like, man, that one got away. I wish I would have gotten that one.
Name a movie in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a bunch. Do you mean actors that Ari Gross was my nemesis for many years. Jeremy Piven was my nemesis for many years.
Mm-hmm. And then Jeremy Piven turned out to be his nemesis for many years.
Yeah, that happened. There were a couple of movies that I really, really wanted. Killer Clowns from Outer Space was...
Oh, the Shadow Brothers movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, and then there was a movie called Sketches, which ended up... I forgot, but it ended up... Oh, Jonathan Silverman was also my nemesis, but I beat him out for my first big job. But it was Jonathan Silverman, Annie Potts, and Jason Bateman. It was a great script.
Oh, wow.
Great script. But Neil Israel, who was Amy Heckerling's wife, who directed me in the Fast Times TV show, who I was sort of a dick to in that So I think, and I read for it a couple of times and I didn't get the gig, but I think because I was a dick to him on the Fast Times TV show. So.
Well, there you go. So
be nice to your directors.
Be nice to your directors, kids. Okay. So I started going through your credits and I had no idea you'd done an episode of Facts of Life. Is
Yeah, it
that
was
something
my
that
first-
was like your first job, right?
Yeah, it was one of my first. It was my second speaking role on TV, and it's funny because they wanted me to come back for the next week, but I booked a commercial which paid more,
Right.
would ultimately pay more than Facts of Life, so I didn't come back. But yeah, that was cool.
So I'm guessing Spencer is the next big thing for you, as far as credit wise.
Sort of.
Okay.
So
tell
I
me,
got
what's the sort of?
so back in the day, they used to make TV movies, right, with all the stars of the network shows. So NBC would do a TV movie with all their network stars. So they did this TV movie called High School USA. Michael Fox and Nancy McKeon, and then what they did was they got the old TV stars like Bob Denver and to play their parents. And so in that show, with Crispin Glover and Michael Zorak played these two characters, Archie and Chucky, like the funny weirdo loser guys. So of course the TV movie did well because it had every NBC star, and then all the old stars. So it was like great. So they decided we're going to make a pilot, a TV series out of this. So Crispin Glover, who is a genius, said, "I'm never doing TV. I'm never going to do TV again." No. So, and I knew Crispin from the Loft because he studied at the Loft as well, and so I go in and read for Archie, and I book the gig. I get the gig, and me and Googie Gress are playing Archie and Chucky in this TV show. And so 3 days in, I walk up to my honey wagon, and the AD has erased my name, and I see C.
It's literally the worst.
CRI. And she turns, I go, "Hey," and she goes, "Oh, hi," and puts her thing over there. I go, I'm gonna put my stuff in there. She goes, "Oh, well, no, no." I go, "Well," she goes, "Dory, the producer, wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go, "But I'm just gonna put my stuff in here." She's like, "No, just take your stuff. Just go." So we got fired. And
it's like being on a date and going to the bathroom and coming back and another dude sitting at the table.
Exactly. So what happened was the network. What's funny is the day before we were shooting this scene, and they didn't do coverage on me and Googie. Like they did sort of like one take on each of us.
Right. And it's good. But I didn't say any of my lines. No, we're good. It's good.
Exactly. That was weird. Like, wasn't that weird? Yeah, that was weird. So we see Dory, the producer, Dory Weiss and Len Hill, and they're talking to some guys in suits outside. So we walk out, and Googie and are like, "Please don't fire us. Ha ha ha. Please don't fire us." Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, next day we got fired. So what happened was the network really, Crispin was great. Crispin was just, it's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's this.
No, I actually watched it on TV.
Oh yeah. So it was like mad. And I was doing my own thing, sort of inspired by him, but I'm no Crispin Glover. So they really wanted what Crispin Glover was doing. And so they got him and Michael Zorak back, and Crispin was a guest star. He didn't have to commit to doing the series, and they paid him $35,000.
Whoa.
Which in 1984 was
like $35,000. That's still a lot of money.
It's a boatload of money, and he didn't have to commit to the series. So, and then before High School USA, my dad calls me, and it's 1984. I've been out here 4 years, and I'd done a little bit. I had my SAG card. I had an agent, manager. He said, "Hey, listen, you've been out there 4 years. I think I'll pay for college. I'll pay for college." I'm like, no, I just around the corner. So I booked High School USA, and then I got fired. I made my manager call him and say, "It wasn't Dean's fault. He's great. We're behind him. They love him."
So then that in line then, so then you ended up on Spencer from
right.
Okay,
and
so for
replacing
those
someone
of you,
who'd been fired, actually. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So I booked. So I actually read for the pilot of Spencer. They cast this other guy, David Greenlee, and then a few months later, I get call go and read for Spencer again, and I book it. But I'm forever. 3 days. If I make it 3 days on a set, I'm good. But for the first 3 days, I'm seriously terrified that because both of those things were 3 days. And there was another thing that was 3 days. Just about 20 years ago, I got fired from again. But yeah, so Spencer.
Well, this is okay. So this is a really interesting story because, to me, from the outside, Spencer was a sitcom that starred Chad Lowe, and to me, that's the pitch: Chad Lowe in a sitcom. So then, walk me through Spencer as far as this was a TV show for NBC in the '80s, and it's about a crazy kid named Spencer
with two wacky friends who are those two funny loser geeky friends, and we're all trying to get laid. That's all the movies, everything we did in the 80s, like a bunch of guys trying to get laid. That's because all the writers who were writing stuff at that time never got laid in high school in the 70s, so all they wrote about these fantasies about geeky guys getting laid.
But so here's what I want to ask you, okay? Because here you are, we've gone through it. This is a really realistic progression, like from Oklahoma to Santa Barbara to Los Angeles. You're working, you're in class, you're getting a commercial, you're getting this thing. Now you're on Spencer. It's on NBC, which for all you kids out there, it's a network that you'd watch on television. And it had millions and millions of viewers.
Huge.
And then you watch this thing implode. What was that like when you're just a dude going to work, happy to have a paycheck? And I believe it was Chad talking to his brother and friends who convinced him not to do TV on his TV show that he's starring in.
Specifically, Charlie Sheen. Yes. The tapings were like a Beatles concert. Chad would walk out, and they'd bus in high school girls, and it was screaming, like you can't believe it. You probably experienced it, but like, holy crap. And we'd walk out there and like scream like, wow, this is amazing. And we were taping at Sunset somewhere, blah, blah, blah. But they'd be out on the gate like, Dean, Grant, Chad, come talk to us. I go, holy crap, this is weird. It was weird. So Chad was in it. And his brother would show up to the tapings, and they would have to take him away. They'd have to take him back. Because he was Rob Lowe at the time. This is 85.
Yeah, prime Rob Lowe.
Prime, yeah. And Charlie, yeah. So, but they were saying, and this was a thing back then, is there were TV actors, there were commercial actors, there were TV actors, and there were movie actors. And there was no crossover, generally. There was, but we didn't want to believe that happened. It was just, so like Crispin never did TV again. I didn't want to do TV because movies were cool. Anyway,
absolutely, sure. But it's not like you're starring. He's starring in a show that's titled after him.
Yeah,
he decides that he's character. He's Spencer. So then he says he's not going to come back, or how did that go down?
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to do the show anymore. He's 16, so they can't.
There's no contract that they can make him.
Yeah, I think they ended up suing him, and I think there was some settlement. But yeah, he left. They retooled the show with Ross Harris as a Spencer character. Ronnie Cox was the dad. He left as well. They brought in Francis Sternhagen and Harold Gould to play the grandparents.
No slouches, though. They're amazing.
Oh, my God. And Mimi Kennedy was the mom.
Okay, so you're Dean Cameron sitting on the set. How did you first hear about this, and what does that do to your thought process? What are you
about Chad?
What are you thinking? Yeah.
We get calls going, we're probably not going to start right back in January. There's a couple of hiccups. Oh, that's weird. And I'd call Chad. I'm like, hey, Chad, what's happening? And he wouldn't call me back. And then finally, he called me and said, I'm not going to come back to do the show. And I sort of understood, like, okay, great, but what? And Mimi, I was going to direct this thing with Mimi this year. And she said they had a really long talk. And she was like, listen, dude, you'll never get an opportunity like this again. And you're never going to work for NBC. And he's like, I don't care. It's like, you don't understand. This is what you have is what everybody wants. And you're just throwing it away.
Yeah.
But he did. And so then this other show, they retitled it. It was called Under One Roof. It just started fizzle and didn't really work very well. And because Ross was also geeky. And so three geeks together, like, So it died.
Well, and to be honest about it, the reality was he was Rob Lowe's brother. He's talented, and the show was good. I remember enjoying what they did on the show, but at the same time, it was like you have a Nancy McKeon, you have a Philip McKeon, you have my brother, me. Like there's a benefit to having some sort of like, oh, he's the brother of, but Ross didn't.
And it's funny because I ran into Chad. About 10 years ago at Warner Brothers. And he said, yeah, I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have left.
So again, we're here at Prince of Bel Air. And how did you get Prince of Bel Air, and what was that for you? And what was it like working with the man, the myth, Don Swayze?
Prince of Bel Air, I ran in and I auditioned, and I think I read for it once and I booked the gig. I mean, it was it was during my funny friend sidekick years. So me and Don Swayze were the Mark Harmon's funny pool guy assistants. And I remember really wanting to not like Mark Harmon because he was, handsome TV guy, but he was so nice and just a pleasure. And I was very methody. So we worked in this pool thing. And so the owner of the pool guy, is there something I can be fixing here? And he goes, yeah, you could take this filter apart and be putting that together. This is why I love Mark Harmon, because I was doing that. And the director was like, what are you doing? I go, well, I'm putting together this filter, and I think because my character would be doing that, and it's like, no, it's too much. And Mark Harmon goes, I really like this. That's a really good idea. So that stayed in. And then I ad-libbed something. I had a straw or something. I drooled.
You drooled, yeah. It was like you have a thing to.
Snorkel.
A snorkel. You're playing with a snorkel, and Don Swayze wants to play with it. Right. And you call him out.
Yeah. And I go, I just ad-libbed, I drooled. And the director's like, what, you used to ad-lib something? I go, yeah. And Mark Harmon goes, it's really funny. Keep it. So forever, Mark Harmon, I was like, God. And I remember telling my girlfriend that at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, he's really nice. He's a really good guy. So
I remember when we shot it, it was Harmon and I in like this big truck that we had to drive around in. So I had a lot of just me and Mark Harmon time. It was just like he was so aware of other people. If you talk to Mark, as you know, he will never talk about himself. He will always talk about you. Yeah. And he told me one story. We were driving around Westwood, and in Westwood, he's like a god because he was the quarterback of UCLA, and his dad is this huge football hero. And so was Mark. And I was having some girl troubles, and me and him are talking about girls. And he goes, well, what I used to do is I used to go over to the sororities. I'd knock on their door and I'd say, hey, make me dinner. And they'd make me dinner. And I'm like, that's a horrible story, Mark Harmon. There's no possible way. Like, you're the football hero of UCLA. You're Mark Harmon. You look like you look, and you're just knocking on a sorority saying, like, you go do this? And he goes, yeah, why wouldn't you? I'm like, because I'm not Mark Harmon. I'm not you. And he goes, well, I would try it. And it was like, what was so funny about it was he's a smart guy, but at some level he doesn't get the Mark Harmon-ness of his Mark Harmon-ness.
Right.
But okay, so we do Prince of Bel Air, which again is another TV movie. And then you end up doing Fast Times, which is the television version of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Right. I did not read for this, but I wanted to. I couldn't get in for whatever reason. It was the hot thing. Everyone wanted to be on it. And I think this is one of the most brave, amazing, like you just had no fear in doing this. You played the Spicoli character. Okay.
Right.
How the fuck do you get the balls to like go and do this when it's a singular character that today people are still imitating?
Sean
Penn Spicoli. Right. No, but I mean, here you are. You did a good job on the show. Let's be really, really honest. I think you're really talented. You did a good job on the show. You were not Jeff Spicoli from the movie. You were your own Jeff Spicoli.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be compared favorably. What is the thought process when you are a young actor doing that and being especially in that group of people where, I mean, you worked with Sean at the Loft, right? I mean, he was there. What's that whole thing like?
When they announced that they were doing this show, I remember Crispin and Glover and I were going, who's the poor fuck who's going to play Spicoli on that show? Can you believe what sort of asshole is going to be playing Spicoli on the TV version of Fast Times? And so that audition process, I started reading for it in the summer of 85, I guess. 85, 86. Anyway. And going, I'm not going to do this show. There's no way I'm going to do this, but I want to go in and do a good job for the casting people. And Amy Heckling's great. I sort of knew her. So I want to be good, but I cannot do this show. I can't do it because I will die. And it kept bringing me back. And it got more and more real. I mean, I read for that show so many times. I remember seeing a young actor who was named Casey Reeves was there. Keanu Reeves was
wow. I didn't put that together. Yeah, Casey Reeves. I love it.
He was called Casey back then because Keanu was such a weird name. Right. So,
but you don't know anything about that.
No, exactly.
Having a weird name, yeah.
Yeah. So, but just as it got closer and closer, and I wasn't getting any other work, there was a couple movies I really wanted to do, and I didn't get those, and it got closer and closer, and finally they made the offer, and the money was really good, and I talked to Amy a little bit before even that happened. She's like, "How do you feel?" I go, "I this is really terrifying." She goes, "You're great. You're doing a great job. Don't worry. I got your back." Basically saying, we're not going to cast you if you're going to suck, right?
But they basically had to know the same thing you did too, which it's a really hard task to catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
twice.
and my manager was like, "It's a TV series. Do this." She goes, "I bet you it won't last. So, but it will be good for you." It's like, okay, and so, you got a network, right? So you have to get approved by the network. I was the only one. I was the only Spicoli at network. And
how does that feel? That usually is the worst moment.
Yeah,
when you've got like five guys, but
there's Jeremy Piven's here. Damn it! But yeah, I was like looking around, like, oh, I'm the only guy, and like, oh, that's cool. So I go in and I finish the audition, and Amy looks around at all the network and she says, "Yeah, job's yours. Get out of here."
That's great. That's a great moment.
Yeah, rarely happens. So did it, survived. And it was difficult because it was on CBS and the network, I couldn't be high. Like there couldn't have any drug references.
You just had to be out of it.
Yeah, it's like he's just happy. Just make sure he's not high. He's just happy. Even though we do the menthol and have my eyes blazing red, it's just like happy. So they really sort of cut the balls off the character a little bit, but that's fine. I did okay.
Well, before you go on, I just got to say my opinion of it is I thought you did better than okay because I did a whole movie, Three Ninjas, based on a Sean Penn impersonation where I'm playing a surfer guy. The idea of a surfer guy is the only connection is Sean Penn. What I thought was so amazing what you did was it wasn't that guy and it wasn't Chainsaw. It was something different. So I just want to give you
thank you.
Credit.
I had been making fun of surfers to my friends in Oklahoma in high school. When I was in high school, I'd go, yeah, there are these guys. And like, hey, man,
all right, Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I got tibbed, man. It was fucking awesome, dude. I was like, we're just a chukka.
They're on YouTube. It's a really fascinating watch. It's you. Claudia Wells plays Claudia Wells. Courtney Thorne Smith is in it. That's the first time I imagine you guys met. Wally Ward, or whatever he's calling himself these days. Patrick Dempsey, Bill Calvert, and then Jason Hervey played your brother. And Jason and I would end up producing a TV show.
And they'd fired a kid for Jason. There was
to get Jason.
Yeah, we shot a thing with another kid.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. And I'm very excited to announce that we have a brand new class called Adult Weekly Class. Now, what is that? Now, that's a class that'll meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and you come in and you have an hour-long acting class with other students. It's very, very simple, very, very fun. So if you've ever wanted to be an actor or try it or just mess around, these classes are great. So the Adult Weekly Class is going to be every Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific. Now, come and check it out. It's going to be really fun. Go to workingactorschool.com. Check out the website. You can sign up for the class there. If you need any other information, there's a phone number and an email on the website. You can get it there. And we would love to have you come and try. Talk to you soon.
Act 2, Success.
Moving on. Here we are. We're at summer school. Okay. Before we get into this, I want to ask you, when you approached this, you told me this once, and I think I remembered it correctly, that Chainsaw is Bugs Bunny?
That's,
or was that ski school?
Ski school.
Okay. Is there a spirit animal or a guiding guy for Chainsaw?
Me in high school. But the other thing was, it's so pretentious and awful, but I'll just go into it.
Tell the story as though you heard it from somebody else.
Okay. What I heard, so there was a month before, so there was the script, that script was so good. I mean, half of 90% of my job was done because the writing was great. The character was so clearly defined. And I remember reading the script going, this is my job. This is my job. I'm getting this job. And I did. And it was never a question I was not going to get this job. It was one of those, there's very few of those, but that was one of them. And, but we had a month before we started shooting. And one of the things that I noticed, one of the things I did with scripts when I had a lot of lines in them, now I don't, but I'd go through, and this is one of the things Peggy Fury said, go through and write down everything that other people say about you. And then write down everything that you say about yourself. And then find out what the reality is in there and see what.
That's great. I love that.
Somewhere in between that is who you are. And so there was this, one of the things I was like, there's an obsession there of horror films. And I knew about the obsession from wanting to be an actor. And so so what I'll do, so I every day, to the detriment of my girlfriend at the time, I watched a horror film every day for a month and just became really well-versed. And I did this, and I don't have them anymore. I subscribed to Fangoria as Francis.
Oh,
yeah. And I had Fangoria magazines with Francis Gremp on the thing. And if I had those.
Oh my God. Just the eBay quality alone, could imagine. Yeah.
pay for
So
the house.
along that line, was this where you came up with probably one of my favorite lines of yours ever is Tobey Hooper classic?
Yeah.
Where did you come up with Tobey Hooper?
I just messing around. Just messing around.
That was such a smart line. And what, again, this is, summer school for me was.
I know exactly where I came up with that. So,
Okay.
Joel Schumacher,
Right.
the director Joel Schumacher, we called him Joel Schumacher. So
It transferred.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, Tobey Hooper. That's where it came from.
If this is right, you were on the set at Fast Times, and Patrick Dempsey and Wally were going in to read for Chainsaw Dave. Is that where you first heard about it?
Yeah. Well, I first heard about it because Amy Heckerling was supposed to direct Summer School.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and she was talking. She's like, yeah, Wally, Patrick, I'm doing this movie next summer, and you guys are perfect for these two characters, Chainsaw Dave. I'd like, I would like to be in a movie as well, Amy Heckerling.
Right.
I'm playing Spicoli on TV. The least you could do for me. I didn't say that. I
took a hit. Yeah.
Quietly seethed as we do. And so then apparently Paramount, Carl's movie got shelved, and they said, pick whatever you want. And he picked Summer School. Amy was out.
So you show up on set. We have that week of rehearsal.
Right.
And I'm immediately, like I was saying earlier, just intimidated, where it was just like you were so mysterious to me. You were like the actor of the group, and you were so good. So it wasn't even like I could drag on you.
Right.
And so it was like I said, okay, well, he's really funny. And then I remember we went to the Paramount commissary for like a 16 magazine brunch or something, where they wanted to take our pictures. And having been raised on the prairie and been, a centerfold in 16 magazine a number of times, I was so used to not only these people in this process that it was like, I was, kind of like, yeah, great. Here, smile, 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 get around. And you were so uncomfortable with it. And I never really understood, because I was coming from a completely different point of view as you were. What was so uncomfortable about not that it isn't a weird thing, but I'm saying from your point of view.
I'd had a bad experience with 16 magazine and with Spencer. I'd done an interview with them, and they made up everything. Just everything I said. And I thought, well, I don't want to promote this. And
I always thought that was the best part. I always would read my interviews going, oh, I sound cool.
I mean, I remember reading going, I never said it. Why didn't you even talk to me? Literally nothing I said was in there. So, these guys, and I mean, whatever. But yeah, Richard's, and this was after we shot the movie. This was like a year later when we did that. Because Richard goes, yeah, you wouldn't hold the magazine. I'm like, no, I wouldn't.
Right. That's right. That's so funny.
So
so I loved my experience on Summer School. It was a studio film. We shot it at Paramount. We shot it on location. It was everything that you want a movie experience to be, not to mention the freaking amazing Carl who was directing it. He used to run these Simon Says games. He would get everyone but you.
Right.
And it was always interesting that it was like, I saw that there was this battle of wits between you guys, which I really admired. Wow. So this was my experience. And Harmon was really great. Kirsty cursed like a sailor and acted like a sailor and was basically a sailor, and we loved her. Yeah. It was every great thing that you could imagine for me, your experience.
Yeah, same. And it's funny, those Simon Says things, I would occasionally, he'd have to go set up shots or whatever, and I would lead.
Yeah.
And Kirsty was only on the set with the crossover with us about a week, maybe a week and a half. Uh-huh. So she was sort of this outsider. And I remember she'd sort of lure, because she'd go, can I play? And I go, yeah, stand over there. She'd go, okay. And I go, you're out. Like, pretty much without fail every day. And then she'd curse like words you couldn't believe existed. She'd curse. But yeah, it was it spoiled me forever. It spoiled me, and I think sort of fucked me up because the script was so good.
Right.
It's a great director. We worked, the hours were 10 to 6, 9 to 6. Like, yeah. Because Carl Reiner's like, you don't have to kill yourself to make a movie, which I've always kept like this little stuff I've directed of like, let's shoot an extra day so we don't have to work 15 hours because he said it's just movies and TV. It's just movies and TV. Like, oh yeah, right. We're just doing a movie.
Yeah.
And he really connected with everybody in the cast and was so generous with his talent and seemed to just enjoy us.
He was so disarming. He would tell stories about his son, Robbie, and it was like weeks before I put together that it was Rob Reiner, because I know him as Rob Reiner, not Robbie, my son. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, right.
My buddy Sid would,
right.
Oh, you're talking about Sid Caesar right now. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I was in the theater. I'm sure we all were at one point at Paramount. We were watching the screening of it, and these executives in front of me, they were watching the movie. And when the car scene came up with you and you do the look where you're trying to find out where she's looking, guy leans in front of me and he goes, this kid, man, this kid is going to be a fucking star. Yeah, it was so true. And it was like so awesome because we're at Paramount, at that theater, watching a movie you're in, seeing executives say this kid's going to be a star. It's like crazy. And so after this movie, Paramount did a deal with you, right? You had like a holding deal or something. Can you explain to young actors what that is and what's that like?
So speaking of studio executives, I remember walking there and his name was David Nixay. Got out of his car and came over to me and goes, "You're Dean Cameron." I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're amazing in summer school. I'm David Nixay. I'm one of the executives here at Paramount." You're great. Thank you. Okay, cool. And I remember calling my manager, going, "So this guy David Nixay got out of his car." And she's like, "What happened?" And so anyway, so my agent, again, I was at William Morris, was a big agency at the time, which was very cool. I had a TV agent.
Heard of him.
Yeah. This guy named Brian, who's now head of CAA. So this guy, Brian
Lord?
Brian Lord. He was my TV agent. And I had movie agents. So he was obviously a go-getter and very hungry. And so Paramount called and said, we want to do a holding deal with Dean. And a holding deal is, we'll give you $5,000 and we'll send you some scripts and we get first refusal on if we want you to do it or not. It's sort of, but you can't really do anything else, but we sort of own you for. And so Brian called my manager and said, they want to do this holding deal. I'm going to try something. Cause we're not going to take that holding deal. Like it wasn't worth it. So he calls him back and goes, "Oh, that's really kind, but Warner wants to do an overall deal with Dean. So thank you very much." And they go, wait. Don't just give us a couple hours. So they come back and they go, "Yeah, we'll do an overall deal with Dean for a movie and a TV show and this very nice large amount of money." And Brian was like, I don't know. And now I hear about this. I'm like, how much? Like, yeah. So we end up getting double that. And, but then, the writer's strike came and killed everything. So, and I never really recovered from that. Like I did this other movie right before they had gotten some waiver, this Bad Dreams movie, but
right.
It was heartbreaking because
it's a business of momentum, and the momentum was literally cut in half. Yeah.
And it was also this is exactly the trajectory that one takes, right? You do commercials, you do some guest stars, a couple lines on Facts of Life, recurring, regulars, movies, then you're carrying movies. That's how it goes. And that just stopped. And it was it got bitter for, it's about 60 years now, I think. So.
Well, it's not like your career ends there, because right after this, and again, I swear, I'm not going to ask you about every single credit. However, you do Bad Dreams, which, everyone has to do a horror movie. So good job. And then you do Rockula, which is the weirdest fucking movie in the world. There's not one part of it that you describe and go, no, it's got Bo Diddley. No, it's about it's a vampire movie and he's a rock star. Oh, like Lestat? No, he's going to get killed with a ham bone. Oh, but Tony Basil's in it. It's like, what the hell? Where did you get involved in this, and why is it so crazy?
So Rockula, apparently it was originally a drama. They'd written it as a drama.
What?
And yes. And then
that's a horrible script if it's a drama.
Yes. And they finished it and they went, no, we can't do this. This is awful. Let's make it a comedy. They pitched it to Cannon. Cannon said yes. Blah, blah, blah. It was coming out of the strike and everything. And I wanted to carry a movie. So I got a call, and at this point I wasn't auditioning. I would just go in and meet on stuff. And so I went and met them, and I talked about Cheap Trick and how much I love Cheap Trick, and also I like the story because the script it's crazy. And at the time, and this was also informed ski school. At the time, there were we're coming out of the 80s stuff and into very serious 90s movies, and young actors being like, oh, we're doing God's work and we're serious and we're going to be homeless. Like, specifically, there was a movie called Where the Day Takes You about homeless teenagers.
Right.
And I called it
everybody in it, from Ricky Lake to Balthasar Getty.
Yeah, I called it Where Your Fame Takes You, because it was like no one believes that you're homeless, and your clothes are anyway. So Rockula was crazy, a crazy script. The battle scene is a duel with a peg leg and a ham bone, right?
Right.
So, and I get to play music because I was a frustrated musician my whole life, and I could sing and play guitar in this movie. I am in. I really want to do this. I went in, talked, charmed them. And I think by the time I got home, I got the offer on it, and it was a fantastic experience.
But
anyway,
this thing to me is insane. Okay, so Thomas Dolby is the guy that you're fighting with a ham bone.
Yeah.
Who at the time was it was the height of Thomas Dolby. Tony Basil is like this other witch who is at the height of Tony Basil.
He plays my mom.
Bo Diddley.
Bo Diddley.
I literally mentioned Bo Diddley in Heathers. And it's like I go, who does that guy think he is anyways? Bo Diddley? And it's like, yeah, it's Bo Diddley in your movie. So you're playing music with Bo Diddley.
Yeah. There was a scene where we're jamming. Because of the rights and stuff, we couldn't use Bo Diddley music or Thomas Dolby, and they ended up using a piece of anyway. And there was this great moment in the shoot of that. I think we're doing Rapula. My reflection is another character, and I always joke that I got to work with my favorite actor, Dean Cameron, in the movie, and we were leaving the set. Like, they're doing other setups, and Bo Diddley was behind me, and he and Susan Tyrrell would spend a lot of time in their trailer hitting the sauce there. So they were heading back.
They were very happy, as CBS
They were
would
very
say.
happy. But he said to her, he goes, man, this movie could be really good. That was so cool. Here's another, this is heartbreaking. So I was intimidated by everyone, imposter, whatever. But so finally, after one day, Bo Diddley cooked ribs. He did Bo Pop's rib cookout, made lunch for everybody.
Of course.
Great. And I even had some because I was, anyway. So I brought my tape recorder and I said, hey, Bo, would you leave an outgoing message for my answering machine? He's like, yeah, sure. Right. And he goes, hi, this is Bo Diddley. I'm not going to do the Bo Diddley accent. I will in a minute. He goes, hi, this is Bo Diddley. Dean's not home right now, but leave a message. And so that's my outgoing message for a little bit. And when I put it on my machine, and when I worked, I didn't tell people that I was working because no one was happy about it. No one was ever happy that none of your friends were happy you were working. So So I had this answering machine like, this is Bo Diddley. Dean's not home right now. And people are like, Dean, that is awful. That is not funny. That's racist and horrible. And that's disgusting. So I erased it.
No!
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, so music obviously is a big part of your life, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But then you do Men at Work. It was a movie that was it written by and directed by Emilio?
Yeah.
So Emilio Estevez writes this movie. Charlie Sheen is in it. They're brothers, in case you don't know. And Dean's in it, and a whole bunch of really fun people. What was that experience like?
I had a blast. That was a blast. Because I was a dick, I kept turning it down. I went in, I met Emilio, and I read a scene with him, and he was just laughing the whole time. I thought, that's pretty cool, but he's Emilio Estevez. He's a dickhead. He's a brat pack. And Charlie Sheen's blah, blah, so fuck these guys.
You had quite the chip.
There was this one line in the script this line of description that I thought, so pretentious and dumb. Like, no. So they offered me the movie. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And we're like, this is Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen. What are you talking? Like, no, I don't want to work with that guy. He's a dummy. So what happens when you really say no? And this was the thing I learned from Paramount. When you really say no, they're like, okay, well, we'll give you more money then. And we'll give you credit on the poster, and we'll give you a huge trailer. And no, okay, well, we'll give you more money, and we'll give you a bigger trailer. So I'm like, oh, crap. And so I went out to lunch with Andy Fleming, who directed Bad Dreams.
Uh-huh.
I was telling him, and he goes, do you want to be an actor? I go, yeah. He goes, why didn't you act in this movie?
Yeah.
Call my agent, like, let's do it. So I did it. Emilio Estevez was so nice, such a nice guy.
That's great.
Just generous and funny and just sweet. And would, before a scene, you go, what do we change? And what do you think about this? And just so open and wonderful and really an inspiration. Funny story.
Yeah.
My funny story from Men at Work is, we're doing back then. They'd do tow shots. So we were in this truck, and they would tow us in this big truck. Would tow us, and camera crew, and it's this whole thing, right? And we're losing the light, and at morning the sun's coming up, and it's we got to get this shot, blah, 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 just shoot it, shoot the scene. Like, okay, all right, okay, we can't go over overtime. That's a wrap. Everybody go home. Get out, go. I'm back to my I'm walking back to my trailer. My very large trailer, and the AD goes, Dean, we need to get back. We need to get you back. I go, I thought we were done. He goes, no, we've got to get you back. I go, what, was there no film on the camera? Because they kept on going, Dad, something's wrong with the camera. It's like, yeah, because there's no film in it. So that was funny.
You got to tell a quick version of the Alf story, because to me that is one of the best how you understand this business stories.
This is my favorite show.
Go for it.
On tape shows, you get a script on Monday, you rehearse it, and Alf they would shoot on Thursday and Friday. I was excited about doing Alf because I thought it was in front of an audience, but it wasn't, and I was very bummed about that. So they shoot on Thursday and Friday, and there's all these trenches around, and so
for the puppet, because Alf was a puppet. Just spoiler alert.
Alf was not a puppet. You get a sheet before you start. It says, "Do not call Alf a puppet."
Seriously?
Refer to Alf as Alf, because the executive producer, showrunner, was Alf. He was the voice. Alf is Alf. Do not call it the puppet. Never call it the puppet. Oh, okay, calm down. And then there's like, watch out for the trenches. I was bummed because I was doing Alf.
Right.
But it was three episodes. And so Monday you get this script, and this script is funny and hilarious and great, and everybody's really funny. Everybody's great. Like all these funny lines and everything was funny. By Thursday, Alf has all the good stuff, and everybody else is just a straight man for Alf. And so after 2 weeks, I was demoralized because I was so excited. Oh God, this script's really great. This great. I'm a straight man for a puppet. So Max Wright was a 4th season. I think I'm demoralized after 2 weeks. Imagine working on this for 4 years and this happening every week. So Max Wright, God, I love Max Wright. He tried, man. He was trying to make stuff funny and good. And he would suggest stuff and they'd go, no. Or they go, yeah, that's great. Alf, why don't you say the funny line or the funny bit of business? So I'm standing next to the showrunner watching them block a scene. And they're blocking the scene. And the woman who plays the wife goes, I don't know if I really need to be in this scene. Do I need to be in this scene? I feel like I have nothing to do here. And then Andrea, who ended up on Outer Space, she's like, yeah, I feel like, what are we doing? Couldn't it just be Max and Alf? And Max goes, you know what? I'm trying to make this show good. I'm trying to do something here. And I look around and the crew just backs off. Oh, this seems like this happens a lot. Everybody just stops working. We're looking at Max. Like, I'm trying to work here. I'm trying to do my thing. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Yes, you are. You are trying to work. Because he's like, we're doing the scenes and he's looking at me. He's like, I'm trying to work. And he says his first great line. He goes, I am sick of working with people who would rather be shopping. I'll write that down. It's in a script I wrote. And then he starts, and he goes to is it Anne Shadeen or Sarah? Anne Shadeen. He goes, you never want to be here. You're right about that. And you're a bad influence on Andrea because she doesn't want to be here either. They're like, fuck you, Max. They walk the set. And then he goes, God damn it, put us on sticks. We're the puppets. We're the puppets. So I'm standing next to the showrunner, but then like boom, second team comes in, they continue blocking the scene, work goes like, oh, happens all the time. And so I turn to the showrunner, I go, so does Alf throw tantrums? He just goes, no, he doesn't. And I'm thinking he's trying to think of a show that has no humans involved.
Right. Okay, so you do ski school, which I got an offer because I was in summer school with Dean Cameron, and they had Dean Cameron, and they thought it would be a double good thing to have 2 people from summer school. That's the only reason I'm in it is because of you. I don't know how you got into ski school or but it was a movie that literally was coming off the dot matrix printer as I was flying to Canada, and they did not have a script. You, Stuart, and I added a bunch of stuff that was in the movie that ended up being funny. And then how did you get involved here? Because there's this big chunk here that I want to talk to you about.
They had a sort of a script. And again, it was a very pretentious time and pretentious movies. And there were good movies that I would read for and good TV shows that were not pretentious and stuff like that I was not booking. And I needed to work. And I met with them, and they sent me the script, and there was the monologue about the marmot, about shaving, having the dream about shaving the marmot. And I thought, this is cool and subversive, and there was some funny stuff in there. There was some really funny stuff in the script describing, like, there was a thing where we did the dance and then we'd stop, and then we did the dance and we'd stop. This could be really funny. If they finish the script by the time we shoot this, this could be really funny. And I really liked the character, and I thought I could. And I told them, I said, I think I could do this and be Bugs Bunny. They didn't understand what the hell I was talking about. But yeah, and then they also
But explain it. Bugs Bunny is an agent of chaos is kind of what I would take.
And I mean the most physical manifestation of it, what happens in the movie is at the end when I kiss the guy on the lips. Because that's
right.
Bunny would grab his hand
right.
on the lips. Yeah. And also they paid my rent for a year, which was nice. So,
but what happens here, which is really interesting, because I saw it, I was there. You and I come from summer school. You would think, if you were imagining what this set was like, is that you and I hung out and we were the buddies. But you and Stuart Fratkin had started a love affair that continues to this day.
Yeah.
Where you guys were so good together that I think you were better in this than almost anything, based on that you had Stuart and vice versa. Stuart had you. How did that come about, and what did that feel like for you?
Well, I think actually, Patrick, that I think all three of us, there was this real safety net with all three of us. Like jump, we got you. We'll take care of you. Like whatever any of us wanted to do, the other two would support it. And that's like your improvisation stuff, like your groundling stuff. That's all that is just, I got you. I'm over here and I love you and I'll catch you. I don't know, Stuart and I, we bonded. I mean, Stuart, I learned later, had been a big fan of mine, and I was his nemesis at auditions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he said he'd show up, and if I was there, he's like, fuck, Dean's here. And he tells a funny story about me reading for some show, and it was awful. And at Fox, I think, and afterwards, I had the sides, and I walked by a dumpster and I go, won't be needing these. And I put them in the trash. And he thought that was really funny. But I know, yeah, Stuart and I, we did connect on a real interesting, funny level. It was nice. But I think all of us.
Well, I agree. Really, I mean, no, we all had a great, I think we all had a great relationship, and not just as friends, but on camera. But it became really apparent when you guys did They Came From Outer Space, where I would love to be in the room where I'm a producer and I'm interviewing actors, and two actors walk in and basically hijack my show and start doing their own show, which is kind of what I saw from They Came From Outer Space. Tell me about how that went down.
So the great thing about ski school, there's a rare sentence. The thing about ski school for me,
it's not about learning how to ski.
It's not about learning how to ski. It invigorated me. I had such a good time with you on that set up there. And I remember my career sort of the shits at that point. And my manager, I was talking to her, and I was with ICM, and they were not good for me. They were sending me on stuff that I was not right for, and then getting mad at me because I wouldn't book it. Right. Which is something agents do when they want to kick you to the curb. And she said, Dean's going to come back from ski school, and he's going to book a series, and you're not going to take a commission. And then we're going to leave. I had a great manager. She was awesome.
Yeah. She was like a constant in your life as far as I knew her, as far as I knew you.
And so it invigorated me. And working with Stuart and working with you and we wrote all that stuff. We wrote all these scenes that were so much fun to do. And like, oh yeah, we're just being dumb and making a movie, and it's about ski, but it's not about skiing. There's no skiing in the movie. Patrick doesn't even know how to ski, which is a great story. Didn't they ask you? Nope. And then the director carrying you down the hill that first day.
And then being naked on the slope because they don't have doubles of my wardrobe to give to the stunt guy.
Right.
It was a full experience all by itself. But I have a theory about your career. And it ends with Miracle Beach. Not that your career ends with Miracle Beach, but Miracle Beach is kind of like the exact – no, but here's the exact reason I think. I wrote it out. Your film characters that you were most known for and loved for were smart anarchists with a heart of gold, So Dave Marshak, you're literally seen reading the Skeptical Inquirer. You're reading, first of all, your character's reading. Coming from this world of the 80s where everyone needed to get laid, Chainsaw, Dave Marshak, all the characters that you played, Rockula, all these guys, was a smart guy. Then right after Miracle Beach, Adam Sandler comes around with this man-boy princeling type of character that's just a baby. And It's really funny. I mean, there's no doubt that it's funny, but that's not you. You always have an interesting twinkle in your eye that you can't, I'm sure you're a good actor. You could do it where you're not looking like you're a smart person. But the thing that really, really makes a Dean Cameron performance, I think, shine is that twinkle in your eye, like you know something someone else doesn't because you're smart and you've got a plan. Those characters stop being written and stop being done at this time, not having anything to do with you. So yeah, I would see ICM sending you out on these man boy projects where no, he's too smart. He doesn't I won't believe him as an idiot, who's, whatever fraternity type of joke that they had you.
No, they would be like, they sent me out like the part Steven Weber got in Wings. Like I'm not, I can't do that. Yeah.
It's not like, it's a different type of character.
Why would you send me out on that thing? Well, that's very nice, Patrick. I'll take that.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. But we also teach kids. We have a great class called the Youth Weekly class that's every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And it's for kids. It's for like 10 to 17. And we have a great group of kids right now, and it is ongoing. So if you know someone that wants to get into acting and has never done any acting but would love to try, why don't you have them try starting off with Youth Weekly? Just go to workingactorsschool.com and check us out. It's Youth Weekly every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Act 3, present day.
Later on, like with Psych and Always Sunny, these are guys that loved your work, are now producing and want you to be a part of this stuff. What's that like when you're talking to these people and they're talking to you about a performance? I mean, in my head, I'm like going, then hire me. Right. Put me in your movie.
So, I got, after we did Hollywood Plams, I got really disillusioned with everything, and I had sort of developed this skill of front-end web programming. What I liked about it is the amount of work you put into it was equal to the amount that was returned, which does not happen in showbiz, doesn't happen in writing, nothing in showbiz is like that. But when you write some code, it comes back, I got to fix that. I found that really satisfying, and it paid very well. And I was broke. A few years into that, I started getting calls to do stuff. And I realized, the people who grew up watching me are running showbiz now. And I just wrote this on Instagram. Someone, when I first moved here, said, tenacity, you just got to stay in. And because if you leave, you won't get it. You'll never book anything. But if you stick around, you're gonna work eventually. Mm-hmm. So, So what was like on Always Sunny? I go up to Mammoth and I walk into the restaurant to go, and they're all sitting there, Danny DeVito and all the guys, and they're like, come over, talk to us. Like, oh no, it's okay. No, come over and talk to us. So we sit down and Charlie Day is asking me about stuff we did, like the movies, and because when I got this script, when I got that offer, are they making fun of me?
Right. That's a tough call to figure out.
Yeah. Are they punking me? Because I love that show, But I read the script and like, I don't think they're punking me. I think this is sort of an homage, and there's a problem with the genre, and I'm totally down with that. And they're fucking with that stuff. Great. But so he's asking me about the stuff we did. He was truly interested, and not like, I'm going to, because right after my episode, there was an episode with Richard Grieco, and that's what I was scared of, what they did with Richard Grieco. Like,
okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that was really, really pleasant and wonderful. Like those guys are geniuses. That show.
Well, I think what's really wonderful.
Like it's been on that long, so that they admired me and enjoyed it. And Danny DeVito was funny, and this is great. Yeah.
So we skipped over, but I mean, it's part of our career was Hollywood Palms. So in the classic Hollywood tradition of out of work actors, we go, let's write a movie that we can be in. And long story short, yeah, we actually get the movie made. But you've said this a couple times, and I'm really interested in your take on it, that it was a couple years too late. What do you mean by that?
Well, we started writing that script we had started writing it before the Great Career Crash and I went to Vegas. We wrote that started writing in 95, right?
Right.
So, and that was the era of very talky movies and people talking a lot. It was the Tarantino stuff that was happening, which is great. People actually being human beings with each other.
So let me just back up. I'm so sorry. So Dean and I wrote a movie called Hollywood Palms. It takes place in the apartment complex named Hollywood Palms in one night, the night that you have to pay your rent. And it has like 4 different stories that originally was going to be written by 4 different people. And you wrote a story, I wrote a story, and the other 2 guys bugged out on us. And so we ended up writing this movie together. And so that's the backstory.
Yeah. And we'd started that in 95. Anyway, by the time it got made, which was 2000, and by the time it got released, which was 2001, that was sort of done. In talky independent films. So I think it was a couple of years too late. If it had come out earlier, I think it would have done better and been received better. But I'm thrilled with the movie. It's some of my best work.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I agree.
I think mission accomplished. Jeff Nachmanov did a great job directing it. I think it's fantastic.
Although he later did a movie called The Hotel Rwanda and labeled that as his first directorial film.
Yeah.
Not Hollywood Palms. So it's like, okay, I guess we're his 480 over at USC.
Yeah. Nice reference.
But Hollywood Palms, I thought, was so wonderful because of the experience. It was right around that swingers time of like, Matt and Ben writing. We wrote this thing. Literally, you were living in the Hollywood Hills. We would look out. It would be summer. We'd look out on the moonlit area of Hollywood. It was really classically like, we're going to make this movie, man. Yeah. Like 8 years later, we did. And it had all these great, Elizabeth Mitchell and why was I going to say Dolph Lundgren? Judge Reinhold. Yeah, Judge Reinhold, Matt Winston, Matt Adler, all these wonderful people. And
Paget Brewster.
Yeah, Paget Brewster. And we did, it was like 2 weeks at the No Longer Here Ambassador Hotel.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience and also wonderful just for on your resume, just to be able to say we wrote a movie and it's a movie. Here, you go look at this movie and it says written by Dean and Patrick. And it was really a great experience. And one of my favorite things and very personal for, I think, both of us, story-wise. I mean, anytime you're writing something, you take stuff from your own life and then it filters as the story continues. But I know mine, and I think yours, starts off with this really honest, ugly story in our life that we then, write into the, comedy to make it better. So go rent Hollywood Palms. I saw
YouTube, I think, for free.
No, go rent it.
We don't make any money off of it, or I don't. I don't know if you do, but
no, I didn't make any money when we did it. But I do tell this story, which is hysterical, on TikTok, where we had our entire shoot was based around the schedule of the fountain that was in the middle of the the set. The fountain was like $2,500 and was the most expensive thing on the set. Right. And I was doing JAG at the time. And on one particular day, they had driven me from Point Magoo, where we had 15 F-14 Tomcats lined up. So about $1 billion or $2 billion in set dressing on JAG and $2,500 in set dressing on Hollywood Palms.
Remember that.
Here we are. Mm-hmm. We've gone through the past, highs and lows. Now in act, we missed one where we are now. Yeah. What did we miss?
We missed Stuart and I hijacking They Came From Outer Space. Real quick
absolutely. So you guys had been on ski school. You go in and audition for this thing, and how does that?
I'm reinvigorated. I'm reinvigorated. I think Stuart's inspired by my bucket attitude. He goes, "I'm you reading for this? They Came From Outer Space." Like, yeah. Let's see if we can go in together. So our agents go, can they come in together? Like, yeah, we work on it. We change the whole thing. We rewrite the script basically. And we finish the audition and the producer goes, hated the acting, loved the writing. Loved the writing. Anyway, loved the acting, hated the writing. But apparently they canceled everyone else's auditions after that. And made offers. And then I coincidentally read with Courtney Gaines. They brought Courtney Gaines in the network to read with me. And he was great, but we didn't connect the way I did with Stuart. But yeah, and then that show, one of the only 1 hour comedies, which may be why it's not on anymore in television history, but they just let us go.
Cook.
And we had so much fun. And I remember we booked the gig and it was good, and 20 episodes guaranteed. And that was awesome. And we were so happy. And I remember saying to him, there's going to be a day on set when we're both sick and it's freezing cold and we're miserable. Remember this. He's like, what?
That's so smart.
Remember this. And sure enough, there's a day where we both have the flu. We're shooting a scene we're working with a dog. We're in a convertible. It's raining. And he's like, God damn it. I'm like, remember when we booked this? He's like, yeah. And we had one argument the entire time, and it lasted 20 minutes, and then it was fun. It was fine. It was just such a dream, that show. It was such a dream.
We're not going to go over all of this other bullshit that is your life. You've got a huge amount of other careers, man. You were a Las Vegas magician and hung out with Penn and Teller. You were in the Thornbirds that became a band called Steel Panther and directed videos and wrote songs for them. You wrote a play called The Nigerian Prince Spam Scam that played the Edinburgh Festival. You wrote or created the Bill of Rights Executive Edition or
Security Edition.
Security Edition. You did some kind of joke with Richard Horvitz, which is a web series. You just released an album. Would you like to mention any or talk about any of those that means the most to you? Or
yeah, a couple of those. The being the magician thing came out of necessity. It was 96. I was temping. I was doing temp work for $10 an hour at places, and the people I was working with would go, "Hey, what happened?" And the implication
it's a horrible moment.
The implication is, I'm a heroin addict and I blew up my millions, which was not the case. Is
right.
My career stopped and I need to make some fucking money.
You had an apartment in Los Angeles and those cost money.
Yeah, and fortunately, my apartment was inexpensive, and I'd done some work, but it just wasn't happening. And a friend of mine developed theme parks, and they developed this thing called Caesar's Magical Empire in Las Vegas. He said, you can make $800 a week. You will be a singing wizard doing magic. And you go there for 6 months. You could do a 6-month contract with us. And if you want to stay, you can stay. If you want to leave, you can leave. Like, okay, I'll go. sublet my place to a friend who watched my dog at the time, Big Daddy. Remember Big Daddy?
Big Daddy. Chick magnet.
And moved to Vegas, and it changed my life. It was horrible. It humbled me. Like, I mean, I'm wearing a crown and a cape, a purple robe, and literally singing "Try the Veal." And people are like, "Hey, you're the guy from summer school. What are you doing here?" And I would make up this lie. I'd go, "Oh, it's Celebrity Week." And I go, "Yeah, John Cusack's in the other one. It's too bad you didn't get John Cusack." But I had known Penn Jillette. I'd met Penn Jillette in the late '80s in New York, and always liked him. And they had just started at Bally's in Vegas, and I had internet, so I found him, and he's like, "Hey, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Oh yeah, Dino, come out to the house." Blah, blah. And so we became really good friends, and he had this group of friends. It was a really eclectic group of friends. There's a group called The Jungle. It was this internet group, and just like the guy who wrote Unix was on it.
Jeez.
Yeah. Artists, mathematicians, scientists, this really eclectic group. And I was included in that. And it changed. I went, oh, right. I have something to offer. I'm a good person. I'm smarter than, I'm not a smart person, but I'm smarter than what I've been expected to be in showbiz. Right. So I can do other stuff and excel and just try to be a better me. So that changed my life. And so Security Edition came out of that because after 9/11, I flew with Jeff to, it was October of 2001. We flew to the one film festival Hollywood Palms was in. And there were these two women talking in front of us on the plane. And this one woman goes, "Yeah, we got a wake-up call. We've had too much freedom." And I thought, that's impossible. That's impossible to have too much freedom. That doesn't make sense. That really upset me. And so a couple months later, I was whining to Penn. I said, "You know what? Because the TSA happened, and I don't want to get into all the politics of the TSA and of the Patriot Act, but I was not happy with that. So I said, someone should take a piece of metal and print the Bill of Rights on it and highlight the Fourth Amendment, which talks about unreasonable search and seizure. I should do that." So I did this thing called Bill of Rights Security Edition, which was a pointless exercise, because what it did, it would set off.
It's an act of civil disobedience. I mean, it's not pointless. I mean, it has a reason.
Well, no, it wasn't even it was a thought experiment, because first of all, it wouldn't set off all the metal detectors. So that's one of the things you need to know.
Point one.
So it would set off some of the metal detectors. And the idea was like, it sets it off and you go, "Here, take my rights." That was the joke. Right. But it was really like, well, what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to wait in a long line and take off your shoes and do all this stuff to get on a plane and feel safe? So that was that. So I was really happy with that. Got a lot of hate from it, which was at the time I could handle. I can't now, but it was. I'm really proud of that. And also Nigerian Spam Scam came from that, because back when I was programming, I was working at this games company, and this is really before spam filters. So you would get those Nigerian emails saying, "Please help me. I'd give you $50 million. And so I would write back to these guys and say, "Yeah, I'll do that." And I was writing as this like character that I say in the show, only my shrink understands, which was this very excited millionaire from Florida named Dean Cameron, who has a son, but he also has a houseboy named Quan, and who may or may not
cats.
Yeah, and these cats. And so I write, and no one would answer. And finally, this one guy answered, and I was able to string him along for 3 years. And I ultimately ended up getting a check from him for $3.50. And but it began as me just going, hey, he wrote me back, and I was sending it to Penn. This guy, Paul Provenzo, is a stand-up comedian, a bunch of friends just sending, and finally they said, you should do this as a show. So I was active in this theater company where I met my wife. And so we tried it out at this late night thing, and it went over pretty well. And so
well, there was a format wise, I thought it was brilliant. There was a big renaissance at that time of a show called Love Letters, where two people would stand at a podium and celebrities could go in and be like in a show, but they'd be just reading from a script. Right. And this is formatted similar, where you guys had all the stuff right there.
Yeah, I referenced it. I would say this is like a good version of Love Letters.
I remember you doing this, and I remember obviously it's an idea that's so Dean Cameron and such a weird thing that when I started seeing other people on YouTube doing it and claiming it, how does that? I mean, people were basically. I mean, it's hard to say because what kind of idiot rips off an idea that's so unique and says that it's theirs? But they did.
Well, actually, there had been people. There was a whole subculture called scam baiting, where people doing this before I was doing it, but they were mean. I was trying to be clever and
funny,
just have fun. And this when we went to Edinburgh, and after the second time, a few months later, this British comedian who I was at Edinburgh sort of made the idea very big. So I was like, okay, well, amateurs borrow, professionals steal, and he's clearly professional, and good for him. Because the show never did as well. I mean, like just about everything in my career, it never quite went as big as we had hoped. Maybe
But here's what's interesting, and you lead to this great question, which I had already written down. So it's really good that you're working with me here. Isn't it weird how, as actors or professionals in a business, we look at what the goal is for us and just ignore the accomplishment that just is sitting there that's so amazing. You performed at Edinburgh, which is like a goal for thousands and thousands of people. And you've written films and you've starred in movies and you've done all of these great things. And yet there's this weird discontent that we have. And I'm not pointing a finger at you. I'm saying we both have it, or
everybody I know in showbiz.
What do you think that is? I mean, like with fame, even on your website, you say something, maybe I'll become famous again and I can,
appreciate it.
And I can be appreciated. What's your relationship with fame?
Tangential, I think. So I know some very famous people, and
but you've been very famous people as well.
Nah, I've been almost famous. There's two things. Well, first one is David Lee Roth said this great thing. He said, I don't get all the girls I want. I get all the girls who want me. And that's showbiz.
That's acting.
That's movie and TV. I really wanted to be in the Breakfast Club. I was in ski school. Okay, cool. I always felt like showbiz for me was like dating a girl that was super, super hot. Like, and you're like, I can't believe she's with me. I can't believe I'm with her. And at some point she's going to figure out that, but man, it sure is cool being with her now. And she looks great naked and I have a lot of fun with her, but it's not going to last. That's fame for me.
That's a great description of it, because it's fleeting and you don't. Do I have it? Am I famous? Oh, am I famous enough? What happened? I'm not famous. Where did I go? No, I was somebody. It happened so fast.
And because that girl is also, everyone else wants her, and she's got the pick of the litter, man. She's got whoever, and you're like, well, I'm with you now, but oh fuck. So that's fame.
Well, that you mentioned it, which I kind of glossed over, but what's your relationship with Steel Panther? You've written songs with them. You've directed their music videos. You were in a band with, I guess, basically them, right? With
the drummer and the guitar player. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a weird relationship. they've hit this other level that they sort of left me behind. Just that's basically it.
You're Pete Best of Steel Panther.
I sort of am of the creative team of Steel Panther. I love them. I love Russ. I love Darren. They're great. Joe, who's now their bass player, was one of the karaoke guys. Because there's about 10 of us who play the live band karaoke. And Joe Lester, who's now Spider in Steel Panther, he was a bass player in one of the nights that I couldn't do, so he would do that. I think Steel Panther is there's no one like them. They're often compared to Spinal Tap, and that's completely wrong. They're more like either Sha Na Na or the Monkees.
Oh, interesting. Sha Na Na is a great reference. What I love about them is they're not. They don't look down on the music. They don't even look down on the people. They are kind of like enjoying the people and the ridiculousness that it was from a loving point of view. They ride this line, man. It's perfect satire. And what's great about it, Penn, there's this thing Penn talked about, Penn Jillette talked about, which is when people make fun of magic. Yeah.
They don't have the skill to do it. So eat me.
I mean, the reason being that Steel Panther can play. They're not making fun of, they are that. They can play the music. And
I met,
go ahead.
Yeah, I met Russ when he and Paul Gilbert were roommates, and Russ was.
Oh, wow. He can play guitar,
Yeah, and Russ was teaching at Musicians Institute when he was a teenager. That guy is a musical genius, and he can shred, but he can tell you what the relationship of the modes and Beatles songs are, and why Zappa is good. I hate Zappa.
He knows what a mixolydian is.
He knows what a mixolydian.
Did some of those guys play? Because now you just released an album which I love, which is Low Speed Chase is the name of the band, which is you. And then the name of the album's Expect Delays, but they obviously, there was other musicians on it. You wrote all the songs and sang all the songs and played, but were some of the guys involved?
Russ played a solo on Whiskey. Yeah.
That's a great fucking song, man.
I love that song.
Okay, so I would love for everyone to go right now after this is over and check out Low Speed Chase Spotify. It's really, really good. Honestly, it's not a friend recommending. It's a guy who loves music recommending.
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. Now, besides classes, I also offer a one-on-one session. It's an hour just between you and me working on a particular piece of material, whether it's for an upcoming audition or maybe you're working on something and you need to have that breakthrough moment. These are really, really fun, and they're really, really great because they're really personalized and intense in all the good ways that intense can be. So if you're working on something, if you want to break through, if you want to have a one-on-one session where you're not working with other people, this is the way to do it. All the information is in the classes page on workingactorsschool.com.
Act 4, questions.
All right, now we're into Act 4 here, and it's going to be the questions, okay? Now, this isn't a fast round. You can think about this. It's not, and no gotcha questions. This one's called That's Showbiz, and it's the most Hollywood moment in your life. What would you say was the most Hollywood moment ever?
Speaking of Joël Schumacher, I was having dinner with Eric Stoltz, James Spader, and John Philbin.
Can I pick up those names for you? You seem to have dropped a lot of them.
Well, okay, so we're at some restaurant, not a swanky restaurant, but a sort of restaurant. And Joël Schumacher walks in and goes, "John Philbin, Dean Cameron, Jimmy Spader, Eric Stoltz, star, 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 star.
Perfectly performed. Okay, that's Showbiz Part 2.
50% right. So
No, that's what I'm saying, man. You gotta that imposter syndrome is taken over. That's Showbiz Part 2. What's your most embarrassing Hollywood moment?
I wrote this on my on deancameron.com. I was read for a movie called 18 Again, which was one of the many body switching movies of the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want to see me because they thought I was this wacky weirdo who would come in and do weird shit in auditions and be weird in movies. I don't know where they got that idea. And so we lobbied hard for me to go in and read for 18 Again. And and it was like the day before, like my agent, like, make sure you just go in and just don't fuck around. Like, yeah, I know, I get it. Okay. This is not the stuff you want to hear. So I go in and I'm wearing I wear this red sweatshirt and I'm reading and it's horrible. And I'm like, I'm not going to get this. But I want to be, I'm still, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you. Good. So I'm reading better than I go, God, Joe, God, Jesus. Oh, something bit me. And I just see Mel go, oh God. And I go, okay. All right, let's continue. So I finished the audition. Thanks, that was great. Thank you for coming in, which is, we'll never see you again. So I take off the sweatshirt and a bee falls out of my sweatshirt. I had been stung by a bee in my audition and I wanted to go back in and with the dead bee. But can you imagine? Yes, so Dean came back in with a dead bee in his hand saying, I was bitten by a bee. So I did not, I was like, I don't know what to do. So,
did you hear it back from your agent? Any feedback?
No. I told him what happened.
Yeah. Next one is Show Me the Money. Biggest missed financial opportunity.
Oh, I know. Late 80s, right after early 90s, after they came from outer space. I had a good chunk of change in the bank. And I wanted to buy a house. And back then you could buy a house for like 150 grand, 200 grand, not a big one, but you could get one.
Yeah.
And I was sort of at a realtor. I was like, let's buy a house. And I was like, I want to live in the Hollywood Hills. It's like, no, you can't afford the Hollywood Hills. I go, no, we could find. And so I found like this rickety piece of shit. It was like 150,000. It was too much, because you had to put a lot of money down back then. He's like, Burbank, let's go look in Burbank. You could get like a 3-4 bedroom house with a pool for like 95 grand. Like, I'm not living in Burbank. It's disgusting. I'm not living in the 818 area code. Screw the Valley. I'm never living in the Valley. So I never bought a house ever until a few years ago and in Burbank. And it was much more than $95,000. Let me tell you that.
Okay, the next one is Show and Tell. As a teenager, what's your favorite poster in your room and how did you come to obtain it?
I had a giant Led Zeppelin poster with various shots of them in concert. And I bought it at like the Oklahoma version of Licorice Pizza at the mall.
That's like the perfect place to buy a Led Zeppelin poster.
Yeah, it was,
right next to the black lights.
Yeah, exactly. And the Stoned Again poster.
Right, dude, where his face is melting.
Yeah.
All right, and the final one is Show Me Some Love. What's your favorite performance of mine?
My favorite performance of yours is your Groundlings interpretation of your Joe Walsh experience.
One of the few who saw it live. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
That story is the greatest showbiz story in the world. And then that you acted it out as yourself at the Groundlings was so meta and weird and just, you were great. And the audience wasn't like, is this really happening? Is this real? And it was so good. That's my favorite thing of mine.
Well, there is no wrong answer to that question. So thank you.
Epilogue.
And that ends our massive multi-part experience with the man, the myth, the legend, Dean Cameron. Is there any plugs or anything that you'd like to let people know about? Chainsaw and Dave 24 pins, anything like that?
Yeah. Chainsaw and Dave 2024, 2 thumbs up America. There's a comma missing intentionally.
2 thumbs up America. I love it. I love it.
Those are available on deancameron.com/stuff. You could also, sign a picture if you send it. But Low Speed Chase, it's on everything, Amazon, YouTube.
I would back that up 1,000%. If you like power pop, Low Speed Chase is you're really, really good, Dean. Really, really
Thank you.
good.
And we're playing our first show November 4th at the Whiskey. We're opening coincidentally for Fast Times, the band Fast Times. It's a 80s.
Are you
cover
kidding
band.
me? You're going to be singing the song Whiskey at the Whiskey opening for Fast Times.
Yeah, and it's free. So
oh my gosh,
8:15. So But but Low Speed Chase is on every stream, everywhere you get free music, and you can also buy it on Apple.
Well, dude, thank you for doing this. I love you so much. You're one of my best friends, and I've had more great working experiences with you, from acting to writing to producing, than almost anyone else, with the exception of maybe my wife, who we created this show. So it's been a real pleasure.
I love you too, man. I love you too.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun. I love talking about myself.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux, Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'm really, really glad you're here and checking out the podcast. It is an audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's a video podcast over on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you get the video ones. All my socials are Working Actors School on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Please check us out. If you want any information about the school, it is at workingactorsschool.com. We've got classes going on all the time. And as an extra bonus, I've added at the end of the credits here Dean Cameron's song Fish from the band Low Speed Chase, and from the album Expect Delays. It's a really, really hot song. Enjoy. And again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Something I don't understand. I've got nothing according to need. I'll be floating in somebody's blue-tinted plan. I'm the moon in the daytime. I'm a footprint on water, a footprint on time. I'm the loneliest fish in the sea. In the sea, I'm the loneliest sky in the night, surrounded by something that won't set me free. A guy that's a hole in the light, floating around like a fish in the sea. I'm the moon in the daytime. I'm a footprint on water, a footprint on time. Fish in the sea. I'm the loneliest fish in the sea. Na 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 na.